Okay, so this is live. This is something very new for me. Let's see. So I guess I'll introduce myself and just start waiting to see if some questions roll in, and we'll just go from there. This is the first time I've ever talked to myself on a video, so please excuse any awkward moments. Okay, so my name is Cassie Siegel. I'm a booking agent over at Madison House in Boulder, Colorado. I've been there for 10 and a half years. I got my job basically right after college. I started as a booking assistant, and then just over time sort of started booking shows. My first client was John Brown's Body. And I've been booking bands for like 7 or 8 years. After John Brown's Body, I started working with Rootfire in the movement, and then that transitioned into Ineffable, and my roster's just sort of grown from there, as well as my relationship with the Ineffable and Rootfire camp. Let's see. I also am the day-to-day manager on JJ Gray and Mofro. So I dabble a little in management, but mostly in booking. I basically got started in music. I was a singer my entire life. And basically, as I got through high school, decided that I didn't want to perform in front of people. I'm not really much of a spotlight person. So what could I do to sort of still be in this world, but help the people who actually wanted to be in the spotlight? And I found a great music industry, music business and entertainment industries program down at the University of Miami in Florida. I kept singing throughout college. You have to have an instrument in order to major in music business. So I studied jazz and classical vocals along with music business. The program was really interesting. It was 2005 to 2009. So it was still in the like awkward transition. The awkward transition from CDs. Oh, the Elovaters. Hi, guys. The awkward transition from CDs to streaming. I think Napster was gone, but there was Our Tunes, and everyone on campus would just like steal everyone else's music. Otherwise, it was mostly iTunes libraries, no Spotify. But the curriculum was mostly like record industry, record labels, some management, licensing. So it wasn't extremely relevant to what I wanted to do with live music, but it did sort of push me into the direction that I wanted to be. I'm born and raised in Denver, and hey, Dave. I'm born and raised in Denver. We have an incredible live music scene here, with one of the best venues in the world. And I came back from college my junior year and started interning and got into some music festivals, and then basically instantly got my job out of college. And I've been at Madison House ever since. I definitely am thankful that I decided to be in the position I am, where I can help musicians and people who want to tour and help cultivate careers. It's really, I think, probably the most rewarding is seeing these bands transition and grow and become inspired and everything. And also in the time that I've been doing it, there's been a lot of shifts in how live music works, along with ticketing, along with how bands make money inside and outside of touring, and just probably even the amount of exposure that bands can find through other outlets. Basically, there's endless possibilities with everything that's available today. So yeah, that's like a little background on me. And let's see. I'm just gonna look through. Oh man, what's one of your most memorable shows as a fan and as an agent? Most memorable shows as a fan. I think it was Alt J at the Bluebird in Denver, like right before they got massive, because the Bluebird is a 650 cap room. It's awesome. I love it. I grew up going there. I remember going there and being separated from everybody when it was 21 plus, and like I was under 21, and I was like in a fence so that like you couldn't escape and get any alcohol. And I remember going there with my sister. But anyways, this Alt J show, they like instantly blew up after. And it was just really cool to have been able to see them so intimately. And then they were playing Red Rocks like the next year. One of my favorite shows as an agent, I don't know if I can pinpoint it because I've had really special moments with all of my clients, but sitting in an audience or even side stage and seeing someone or seeing the fans sing the lyrics of your band's music, even like an OG track that they released, like super old, that you're like, oh man, maybe they would have known this from the new album, but not from the older stuff. But seeing them sing the lyrics and like blast it and reaching for the band and sort of creating that type of energy on stage for the band is, it's what you work for. So anytime you're able to see that moment for the people you work for and with is probably one of my favorite moments. I also really love traveling to see shows or for my bands, because when you just see them every time in Denver, you're like, oh, I know what this will be. I know what their history is here. So when you kind of broaden where you're able to see everyone, it's cool because it is more national. Like people everywhere love what you're doing. So it's special to be able to see there's some old school people on here. Hey everyone. Anyways, it's really special to be able to see your bands at any moment. Just reaching other people's souls. Let's see if there's other questions. Yes, my emails are endless. They've slowed down the last 6 weeks. But you sort of get in a rhythm. I like to focus on one band at a time. I have about 17 clients. So I just designate a little bit of time for each person and try to get through the emails, try to get through the routing, and just make sure that everyone feels the same amount of love, because that's all I can do. Keep going through. Let's see. Okay. Oh, what am I listening to a lot of right now? It's been an interesting experience being quarantined and trying to find like a good balance of music that doesn't give me worse anxiety and is calming but not sad, doesn't make me sad, and not too like energetic. Hey Dano. I've been listening. I listened to I have like a little blend of all of my clients, of all my favorite tracks. I guess it would be helpful if I gave you a list of my roster. I'll pull it up so that I can accurately give this to you. So I work on the management end with JJ Gray and Mofro, and then I book The Movement, The Elovaters, John Brown's Body, Rising Appalachia, Cut Chemist, Kitchen Dwellers, moving into like a little bit of a different genre. National Park Radio is also in that bluegrass music genre. Then a little more of Americana. I do Freddie and Francine, a group out of Seattle called Kawinka. Denver act, Heavy Diamond Ring, former members of Paper Bird, along with Blake Brown. And then let's see who else. Oh, and L1011 from San Diego. So pretty broad genre wise. And let's see. I think what I'm going to do, because there's some good questions in here, but I'm going to, since it is Music Biz 101 and I am sort of enlightening on the whole touring thing, I will sort of dive in on like the basics of that, and maybe that will help generate some questions. And we can go from there. So I'll start with sort of what catches my eye as an agent. Sorry, there's a lot to look at here. So what catches my eye as an agent? I feel like for me, I've sort of had to find like a good balance between business decisions and passion projects. I think that with that being said, I knew that I wanted to work with bands specifically as opposed to DJs. Not that I had anything against DJs at all, but I did want to work with bands. It's just more of my background and what I could like connect with. So that was sort of where I started. And then just sort of knowing that I have an appreciation for, you know, vocals or lyrics or whatever, anything that I can like connect with. It doesn't even have to be my favorite genre or my favorite music, just something where when I put it on, it like makes me like, oh my God, yeah, I want to book this. I want to grow this. I want to be a part of this. So that's sort of like the initial point for me. And then, you know, prior to all of this COVID stuff, which I do think is going to change some things, but we'll just focus on what it was before. I would sort of look at the infrastructure that the band has. So, like, is it a democracy, or is there one point person who can give all the answers, or make all the decisions? Am I going to be dealing with 6 people who are all trying to come to one decision and no manager? Is there a manager? Like, is that going to help or hurt? Then what is their online presence? How creative are they? How willing are they to be creative with getting their music out there, with getting their presence out there? Are they open-minded? And then also, like, what are their goals? I think being able to have a roster that's diverse, not only in genre, but also in their market values nationwide, helps me look at bands that maybe are on the more local spectrum or regional spectrum for as far as ticket value. So the longer I like facilitate my roster, it allows me to like look at bands and be like, I'm going to develop this. Maybe this is more of a passion project, or I work with this manager and I love working with this manager, and he just signed this mid-level act who I know is going to be some work, but I love this manager. So there's sort of some things to look at, but Spotify numbers don't always translate into ticket value or market value. It's a great indicator, but isn't necessarily, it's not like a direct correlation. Facebook followers, Instagram followers, also, you need to be careful with that, because sometimes there's like, you can purchase those and it doesn't really mean anything. So, if you make a post, how many people are interacting with that? Are people engaging, and is it just outside of your city, just outside of your state? Is it in 5 different cities? So those are different things. I also like a plan. What is your plan? Can you sit down and say, I want a tour starting October 1st, going through November 15th. I want to hit these markets. Our goal is to have these ticket prices. This is our daily budget, our break even. Having like a general awareness of all of those things really helps me be able to do my job and makes it efficient for my bands. So that's sort of what catches my attention with all of this. And then from there, depending on how experienced the band is with touring, we sort of look at like an average per show value. And then that can sort of help me gauge like how much time goes into working with the band and what the value is as a client. Although that's not like a deciding factor. I think it's a good combination of everything falling into one place that makes it work. But anyway, so from there, the easiest way for me to book a tour is to have a manager or a point person come to me and again give me like the time frame and the markets. So-and-so is only willing to drive 4 hours between each market. They only want to play shows on Wednesday through Sunday. Monday and Tuesday will be off. We would like to target on average a $18 ticket, but we also understand that our market value in certain markets is lower than that. We'll leave that to you. Our break even daily is this. And then that helps me then sort of go to the promoters and work with the promoters and say, I have this act coming through. Here's the dates. I get holds on typically like a 5-date range with the target date being in the middle. And then I build an offer for a mutually agreeable date. I think something that's been really important for me in developing my clients is making sure that the talent buyer feels like, sorry, it's my dog. Making sure that the promoter and talent buyer feel like we're a team and not just bullying them into something. So that goes with, we would like our ticket no lower than 15. However, you know the market the best. What do you think? Having that kind of communication basically will create a team feeling with the show and helps find the most success for that show. And it is motivating, I think, for everyone to know that everyone's in on the decision making together. So I'll get the offer, take it to the manager, the point person, and they'll say, we're ready to confirm this, and this show on these dates. I'll go challenge, confirm, magic happens, and then we have a tour. From there, my position is really facilitating like announces. I'll get ticket counts. I connect management and the venue to make sure that marketing is in place. And then just keep rolling. In 2009, when I first started working in this industry, I think we were really on like a 3 months in advance booking. And as of, today, which is like totally different, I'm looking at spring, summer 2021. So we're always looking at it like way in advance now. A lot more bands have the ability to tour. Live music is, I've talked to so many people who are like, the first thing I'm going to do when I can leave my house is see a show. So I think that speaks a lot for the industry. So yeah, now we have to work pretty far in advance in order to get optimal routing for our acts. Let's see. I'm going to look and see if there's any questions I can answer, and then we can just keep rocking. Okay. Oh, hi, Jackie. My best friend's on here. She asked, what is your favorite thing about being an agent? I feel like maybe one of the best and worst things is that it's churn and burn. Like you have to be on your game all the time, which can be stressful when you're like, oh my God, I have to book 3 months of touring for 17 bands all in the next 2 weeks, and some of it overlaps. So I have to make sure there's no competition, but it's really fun. It's a huge puzzle with the dates and the cities and the drive times and the ticket prices, and making sure there's good amount of time for marketing and that you're communicating with everyone. It's sort of thrilling, I guess, if that's the right term, but it's exciting. And then at the end of it, maybe it's 6 to 8 months later, but you get to see the product of your work when the tickets go on sale, and you see all of the band's posts about sellouts and how many people came to the show, and how they did with merch sales. And so there's like a lot of reward that keeps you going. And then you get to see the show yourself when it comes into the market, which, is awesome. But then I think the downside of that is that you're like constantly looking for that forward motion. And then when there's like a little bit of a lull, it's like, okay, I can enjoy this, or like, is something wrong? It's definitely something that we've had to like embrace during this whole quarantine COVID pandemic, is the slowdown, and maybe sort of embracing it and accepting it. Let's see, Dave Parnes, with your current paradigm shift, where do you see the live industry going? I feel as though I don't think live music will ever die. No one has answers. I think it's still going to be thriving because music is what connects all of us, and it's our therapies. So I think that'll always be there. I think I can't speak to like safety precautions and all of that that's going to happen. There's going to be changes, and 1,000 cap room might lower their capacity. I feel like the biggest changes I'll see, and maybe this is, great for the fan base, some maybe changes in ticket prices, And as you've seen the last 6 weeks, like tons of bands streaming shows, connecting with their fans, a little bit more of a personal touch to some things. But I have a lot of faith in what these bands do and their hunger for it. And also, I just think, yeah, like how their fans just like rely on them for all of that. So I think, you know, with safety precautions until there's a vaccine or whatever, you might feel a little different at venues, but I do think it's always going to be there. It's always been there. So I don't think there's anything to worry about there. Let's see. I don't have any inside word on when people will see live shows again. Unfortunately, I'm still waiting for that answer too. We're hoping by the fall, but we'll all just stay in touch and hope for the best. What are the chances of John Brown's Body touring again? We'll see. Hopefully soon. We all love them. They're the best. Maybe we should talk to Elliot and Russ. Gauge new markets for my clients. That's tricky. I think it depends on the risk that the band is willing to take. But also you can, yeah, I think it depends on the risk the band wants to take. Like, hey, we're going to hit said market in the Midwest. Let's just play for like a $8 ticket on a door deal and see what happens. And then they might do it and then be like, no, we can't do it ever again. Because a lot of times, like those markets, we call them tertiary markets, are like on a Monday or a Tuesday, and it's a tricky night anyways. And then you're in a small town. Maybe it's a sleepy town. That can be tricky. But then when you're looking more at like primary or secondary markets, a lot of times you can relate it to other markets with like a similar feeling and sort of go from there. But again, you have to sort of weigh out risk and the band's willingness to like sort of just expose themselves and just like risk it. And maybe they have 20 people in the audience and maybe they have 300 the first time they're there. You just don't know. Let's see. New markets, paradigm. Oh, capacity limitations in venues. I think that's definitely a real possibility. I had mentioned it just a little bit ago. I think that I think it depends on like stage size. So you might not necessarily see like a band that's touring in 5,000 cap rooms hitting a 500 cap room purely for this. I think you would, I mean, that's tricky. There's been some talk of like 1,000 cap rooms becoming like a 400 cap room to accommodate the space that's needed between each person. But all of this is so fresh. And venues and companies are still coming up with a lot of their policies. And like kind of everyone's motto right now is day by day, but really it's like hour by hour. So I can't really speak to like the solutions there. It's definitely something that's been communicated in most of my dealings about fall and winter 2021 shows, that could happen. Smaller capacities, and sort of what does that mean for the room's expenses? Do they close a bar and those bartenders become temperature takers or official like sanitizers? I don't know. I have no clue. I think just keep your ears and eyes open, and we might have some answers tomorrow. We might have some answers in July. Bucket list bands that I'd like to work with outside of my current roster. That's kind of a tricky question. I feel like it would be really fun. There's like a handful of bands that were constantly playing when I was in college, who like really like sparked me wanting to be in live music. And it'd be really interesting to go back and book a tour for them. It oddly happened. I booked a hip hop act when I first started, that was like one of my tops when I was in high school. So that was like a really interesting like come back to like my roots and who I loved, and being able to like do some business with them, which was really cool. Let's look at some more questions. Whoa. Oh gosh, there's so many people I know in here. That's so cool. Okay, sorry guys. Have to make through all this. Oh. Happening again. I know there's a lot of concern about shows coming back. We all feel the same. They'll come back though. I'll reiterate that. Hey Duderman, just saw you there. Oh, we have some JBB fans in here. I like that. Okay, what would be your biggest advice? This is from Nick. I'm not going to say your last names. I might butcher them. What would be your biggest advice for a new band looking for management and just starting to get into the venue scene? Also, what do you think are some of the biggest KPIs for up and coming bands? I think that when you're a new band, if you are like fresh band, I think that maybe you want a manager, or maybe you want like a friend who can help you manage. And then I think like you have to realize that like an agent and a manager can take up to 25% of your income. So you want to make sure that you are in a place where you're able to offer that to a booking team and management team. But I would say like start local. Make sure all of the promoters in all cap sizes know who you are. Make sure they know that you hustle. And that's gonna inspire them to put you on as support, and expose you to nationally touring acts, and more fans, maybe new fans. And I think once you sort of are in that world and you're like, we are from Orlando, Florida, and we are selling 500 tickets on our own, headlining and selling out a room. Let's venture out and hit these other markets. Maybe there's a promoter in your state who can hit 5 or 6 markets, who knows of the business you're doing in Orlando, for example, and they're willing to put you in some 250 cap rooms in each market and see what happens. Maybe there's a nationally touring act who's just coming through Florida and hitting 6 different cities, and you've now established 50 plus tickets in each market. Maybe the promoter suggests to the agent, like, I know this band, they're really great, and they're actually pretty well known in the state. We would recommend them. And then the agent will go to the manager, and the manager will then take a look and listen and do some research, and send it off to the band. Let's see. Moving on. If we have major sporting events, we will have concerts. That's true. There's some people have been saying that it's like either or. I don't think one depends on the other. But yes, Duderman, you are right. John Michaels. Okay, let's see. Hey, Adam Payne. Hey. What's the most important thing? What's the most important thing? I think I'm behind on a lot of this. I'm sorry, you guys. What's the most important thing a booking agency looks for to take on an artist? I think a lot of times you have to look at, is the time going into this going to be worth what comes in to financially, so that you can gauge sort of the value of your work. But there's like so many more factors to that. Like, do they have a team in place? Do they have goals? What are their targets? Do they have new music coming out? Are they releasing content? Are they willing to be like super active on social media? Are they creative in their approaches? Do I like their music? If I don't like their music, do I like the message they're sending? So I think that's sort of everything that goes into it. Do I not like any of those things, but I love their team? Do I love their manager? Do I love their publicist? I think that's sort of why I have such a broad genre spectrum of my roster, is because there's different things that speak to me from each band. Let's see. Stay positive. I like that. Hey, Matt Fritz. Oh. I agree with JD. Nothing beats a live show. Okay. Hal Archer. What type of analytical tools do you use to determine 1, venue size for a band, and 2, possible success rate in individual markets? I feel like, first time in the market and you're a baby band, I'm going to look at like 250 and under. I think, if a room's too big, the expenses are going to be too high, and then the ticket prices that are right for you in the market don't make sense. My dog is playing with a squeak toy below me, so I apologize. And then success rate in individual markets, I think you can look at how bands in a similar genre do. There are certainly genres of music that do well in various parts of the country. But I don't think that that's a blanket statement at all. Let's see. The Elovaters again said hi. Hey guys, love you, miss you. And then they asked, what do you think bands should be doing right now creatively to stay relevant to their fans or possibly grow fans other than live streaming? I think that is a good question. I love the streaming that's going on. I do think that bands need to be like super cautious of overdoing it. I think that's the same if you're like, I want to play Denver every 2 months. Like, don't come here every 2 months. It waters down. It waters it down for you. And so I feel like what people are looking for right now is comfort. And I've seen requests for like personal messages, like, can you upload a video to YouTube wishing my husband a happy birthday or my 5-year-old daughter a happy birthday. She loves your song. I think things like that are cool. I think now more than ever, you have some time to do things like that. I also think it opens a door, so you have to be careful. I think being there and being personable is important. I think it'd be cool if you released like a cover of a track that was bringing you comfort right now. I think those kinds of things. Sales on merch. Maybe you can come up with a cool design. Theo, stop. Sorry, guys. Maybe you can come up with a cool design that like you thought of while you're home, and people can get like an exclusive t-shirt or something, and you're able to sell it for $10 instead of $25. I think I think people just want to feel like supported and loved as much as you do. So maybe that answers that question. Luring other big artists away from other agencies, that's called poaching, and that's bad. Don't poach. Let's see, Pike. Hey, Pike. How do you feel about starting bands playing for free or pay to play? Playing for free, I think, might be something you have to do to get your feet wet. I think offering to do it too often is bad. I also don't love the pay to play idea. I wouldn't advise it. Other people might feel differently. What's my favorite place to book? All places. I love all the promoters I work with. Let's see. Duderman, you're all over this. So chatty. Oh, Marty wants to see Theo. He's pretty cute. Oh God, look at that face. He's my booking assistant now. Are you a fan of Emancipator, STS9, or Old Tycho? What do you think about instrumental bands growing in market share? I have nothing against any of those bands. It is not my chosen genre of music. However, I do book L1011, and they're fucking rad. Sorry. And they're in that genre. I don't really think one thing or another about instrumental bands growing in a market, but they should do it. It's rad. My thoughts on reggae is that I love it. I book a lot of it. I love them. Oh, in Cincinnati. Sure. They can all play Cincinnati. Let's see. Come on, more questions. I got another one of what do you look for in an up and coming band that you might work with? I'll reiterate it. There's a fine line between what I like and what is buzzing and what I feel is going to like yield a career. And I don't have insight on Revolution. I don't work with them. Sorry. Yeah, so there's a fine line between like, is this a business and do I just love this and want to work with it? Hopefully all of those things can combine and then it'll be like a powerhouse team. Okay, more questions. What does a typical day look like at work? Not now, but normally. Typically, I wake up and have like 50 plus new emails. Then by the time I get to the office, I have 75 plus new emails. And throughout the day, I try to juggle answering emails, taking phone calls. Sometimes I just have to block out like 30 to 45 minutes to call people back. But I do think a lot can be accomplished via email, especially with quick questions. So you don't take up like 10 minutes of somebody's time when really it's a 30-second email that needs to be written. Text. I text a lot during the day. There are some people who will only text. So typically I do that. At some point, if I'm routing, will have to completely close my inbox and my phone and sit with a map and a calendar and get all of that done. I also try to designate, like I have a list of my roster next to my desk and I'll just go through each thing and hit the to-do list for that. I need to work on my management client and make sure he has all of his merch and his tour posters and everything's announced and the promoter's using the right poster or whatever. And then I'll go through and say, this client has, 2 weekends of shows that they need booked. And it's the most emergent of biggest emergency of all of my routing that I have to work on because it's in a month and a half. And like now we're down to the wire. Otherwise it's not going to happen. So usually I'll sit and get that. I'll get all the emails out, see if anything comes back in, and then I'll move on. I'm like a list-oriented person. On my desk, I have like a big canister of every color Sharpie and every color pen. I love colored lists. I work down them. I also have an amazing admin team. She and I have also worked on managing bands together. She helps me with tour marketing for my management client. She is my backbone and she is the shit. I don't think she's on here, but she helps my world turn. And usually if you see us out, we're together. But yeah, so without her, we interact all day. We bounce ideas off of each other. And it's like a big email, phone call, and look at a calendar and map game all day. I will ask someone where they're from and they'll be like, oh, you probably don't know, but this small town outside of San Francisco, across the bay, it's called Alameda. And I'll be like, oh yeah, I know this venue from Alameda. I just booked the circus there for blah, blah, blah. And people are mind blown. I know some weird cities across the country. What What's a good way to get promoters to email back? And how often should a band play in an area like New England? There's a lot of places to play in New England. I think it depends, like if you're a baby band, people probably aren't traveling to see you. So you could play a lot of the markets multiple times, but think about how many times you'd want to see a band. I think it makes it fun to not see them every 3 months, but I think to stay relevant, you could like alternate towns that are like sort of all sandwiched between each other. There is no formula to get a promoter to email you back. If that promoter isn't emailing you back, I would just assume that there's probably somebody else who would want to put some risk into promoting your show and would want to be there to help cultivate your career as a band. And I would work with that promoter. And then maybe that'll catch the other promoter's attention one day. Let's see. Is this a full-time job for you? Yes. I work with the bands and I bring the business to the venues. I do not work for the venues. I sort of, when I talk to people who don't know anything about music, I sort of explain it as I'm HR for touring bands. I procure employment and gigs for bands, but I work with the venues. What attendance number do you feel comfortable with as a good first show for an act at a venue under 250 cap? It's a good question. Adam, I feel like it depends. Is it the band's first time in the market and they do 50 people? I feel like that's a victory. Is it their 6th time in the market and they're doing 50 people and they've consistently been doing 50 people for the last 3 years and the 6 times that they've played there? It might be saying something. Cassie, Brian Ernst. How important are bands' Spotify numbers when it comes to signing them to your roster? Yeah. Oh, thanks. I love Madison House too. Do you care more about their draw for live shows? Yes. I definitely am in the business of draw for live shows rather than Spotify numbers. However, Spotify numbers do say something. They are an indicator, but they're not the answer. I had when I first was sort of explaining what I do, it's tricky. You can see bands who have hundreds of millions of streams on a song, most likely because they were added to an official playlist. And then they go tour and the tour does 75 people in every market. It's not a direct translation into business. It does mean people really like your song or they'll let it play through when they're playing a playlist. So, whoa. Turtle. Hey, Brandon. Oh, do I prefer short emails to novel emails? Short. 2 sentences. And then we can sort of get going. Don't write me your senior thesis from college. Let's see. Third Coast Roots. Good question. When it comes to booking shows, emailing promoters, at what number email with no response do you decide to move on? I like to sort of think of it this way. How many times would I want an ex-boyfriend emailing me and me not emailing him back before it got really annoying. I feel like there's like, there's like like a line that you cross when you get maybe to like 4 emails. 3, I think, is proactive. Leave it alone for a little and then you can follow up. But also you might be emailing the wrong person. Like you might have the email for the top of the top in that company and they're not the people that are going to make it rain for you. So do your research. Don't just go to the obvious person, but also like, then if you like do that research and then you find the production guy from the venue, maybe not the right person either. So I think people will respond if they feel like you're not just like throwing it to the wind, but you've done your research and you're informed. Oh, hey, Kevin, Edie. Hello. How do you approach local or regional booking agents to take you on? I think that having a local presence helps, but not every agency is going to sign a local act. I think getting on a national act's radar helps. Clearly, if you're like selling 250 tickets regionally or in 3 major markets, that's definitely gonna like create some buzz. Someone is gonna be interested. Agents want to see bands that make money. We're salespeople. So that helps. Okay, let's see. Are you a contract worker for each band? Oh, this is from Alexia. Are you a contract worker for each band in a contract basis, or are you paid a salary? Can you financially support yourself in this way? And if you do, how long did it take you to get to that point? I work for a company. I'm not self-employed. I also work with each client as like a client. It's not like I don't book like one tour and then they go somewhere else. And then they come back to me and I book a different tour and they go somewhere else. If you want to make a lot of money immediately, don't work in the music industry. Should I have not said that? I think you have to be patient and you have to be passionate and you have to be driven, and it's a gamble. But a lot of people do make a living doing this, managing, booking, playing, and being independent. I just personally chose to work for a company. I think when I was ready to work, it was fresh out of college, and I didn't have the drive to start my own company and go that route. I wanted to learn and grow. Things keep jumping. Byron Garrett, that's actually really funny. Okay, Byron asked, now that we're friends, can I get on the guest list? Sarcasm. For the first time ever, I had a client playing a venue in Denver, and I got a call from the venue and they were like, do you know this guy? His name is blah, blah, blah. He came to the front door and dropped off a 12-person guest list and said, Cassie Siegel approved this. And I was like, no, I don't know this person at all. Like never have heard that name. He's not a buddy of mine. And the name was like really made up, like fake for sure. Um, and he like left his phone number to like get it confirmed, and then they texted him and they were like, "No, bro, sorry, like she doesn't know you, the band doesn't know you, sorry." And then he proceeded to name drop the band's agent, but gave the wrong name, like gave it like spelled incorrectly, basically. And I've never reached that level of fame before. I felt pretty popular. It was the only time it ever happened. Um, Byron, I think you're great, but you're not on the guest list. Sorry. What have been some of your most memorable milestones as an agent? Ooh, that's a really good question. Um, I would say I was okay. So when I started at Madison House, I was the assistant for one of the partners, Jesse Erto, and 2010 was the year that the string cheese incident decided to get the band back together. And Jesse was their original tour manager back in the day, and he brought me on to be their production assistant, the PA. And there's a few moments that were like really epic in my experience with them. I was never really a fan. I knew who String Cheese was, but they played Bonnaroo that year, and it was Mumford and Sons, Buffalo Springfield, and then String Cheese, and I was a massive Mumford and Sons fan, still am, but they were like just getting started, and I didn't know all the guys in the band, but I knew who Marcus Mumford was. And he could not stop dancing during the String Cheese set. It was awesome to see. It was really fun. There were some other funny things that happened during that set. You might have to look it up. I don't know. But anyways, Marcus Mumford had a freaking blast. And it was the most people I had ever seen in front of Cheese. And it was epic and very hot. Let's see, some other moments. It was the first Bluebird show that I booked for the movement. And they were sort of just like coming back and getting back on touring and like trying to like do this thing. And I was standing side stage, and I forget which song it was, but basically just it was sold out, and the entire audience was singing every lyric to this song. And it was one of those moments of like, this is why I do this. So that was cool. Those are all like always epic moments. Let's see, another one. Oh, we were at Electric Forest with String Cheese. This was maybe like 6 years ago. And they did a Lauryn Hill incident. And I love Lauryn Hill. I grew up listening to her. And I got to watch Lauryn Hill rehearse with the Cheese guys at Electric Forest, and was just like mind blown by how freaking amazing she is. It was just like really cool. Let's see, any other moments? I love doing these things. I don't get asked that often. I've done a few. But it's fun to sort of have the time to connect with people that maybe, you don't normally connect with. It's also fun to see my friends on here. That's cool. Okay, let's keep going. Ooh, there's some questions where I can't answer that. This is kind of a tricky question from Jason. If a band does not have a draw, is there something else they can offer as value to get an opening spot on a show of a band that has a draw? Thank you for answering these questions. You're welcome, first of all. I think in that case, look, if a band has a budget for support, for local support, there's a reason. They want that band to have value. They want that band to be able to sell tickets. There's also scenarios where a band knows they're going to sell out and they don't want to invest a ton of money into a local band that's probably looking for cash. In that case, maybe you're like a super rad band and the pairing fits and they're not concerned with draw. They just want something that's like musically cool and helps them curate an evening for their fans musically and artistically. Otherwise, what you really just have to understand is that touring is business. If you don't have a business, you don't have anything. I know that sort of goes back to the point of like how do you get your foot in the door? Hustle. Like, do open mic nights. Go to like local showcase nights where maybe it's a pulled door and you get your friends. But I think, what you then have to get out of is inviting your friends and family to every show. How do I make fans? How do I engage? But it's a business. You have to be able to sell tickets in order to play live. So, okay. The Elovaters, are they coming to Nantucket? Stay tuned. Hey, Tommy. How many hard tickets do you want to see a local regional band selling before you'd bring them on as an opener? I think it depends. It depends on what our budget is. It depends on how many tickets we need to sell or what we anticipate needing to sell. I think that a really great starting number is like 50 to 75 tickets. If like a lot of times when the movement, like a couple years ago with their touring, before they started touring with like national touring packages, we would look for local direct support, which plays directly before them, and then a first of three. And the direct support, we would hope for more like 100 tickets, like 75 to 100, and then the first of three, like 25 to 50. So there's like a little bit of a hierarchy. So, you could ask to be a first of three. Hey, I'm worth 30 tickets and I'll sell them consignment and I'll be the first of three. And a lot of venues will do that. Let's see. This jumps around a lot. Contingent. Okay, let's see. Oh, there's a lot of John Brown's Body questions. I have no answers, and I wish I did. Oh, Grateful Dead or Fish? Neither. Neither of them. Let's see. I can't give any insider info here on bands touring and things that are unannounced and maybe or not confirmed. This is not a tell-all. I'm just sharing some insider info, but not secrets. Sorry, guys. Let's see. Okay, what are some effective marketing strategies that you have seen that work for a band establishing their value? Let's see. I think like something that I've always, let me see, like grassroots marketing, I think would be like creating like a cover video and making sure you tag the band and the song and everything. Like clickbait hashtags. Are those relevant anymore? I don't know. I think, if I'm walking down the street or I'm in a coffee shop, having like cool artwork or a cool logo or something that is unique, that stands out is important. I will tell you from like a visual perspective, and something I've seen is that a lot of bands, maybe they don't have a graphic designer or they don't know a graphic designer, or someone in the band is not artistic in like a drawing capacity. They'll go on and use just like graphics that whatever program they're using already has. Don't do that. Like it doesn't hurt you. It just doesn't help. Okay, what's the difference between an agent and a promoter, and how do the two work together? Okay, the agent works for the band and represents the band. The promoter works for the venue and represents the venue and their promoter company. We work together to find a mutually agreeable date that works, a mutually agreeable venue and capacity that works for the band, and a mutually agreeable offer that works for the band and the venue. And then the agent will confirm the show and lock in all the details, and then loop in the manager from the band. And then the manager and the promoter connect, and they work on marketing the show together, hopefully together. A lot of times I think some bands just sort of like just go at it and don't like ask the venue for their marketing plan or what their marketing spends are. And I think that's a huge waste. I don't think that the band can dictate that, because what you have to understand is that the venue and the promoter knows their market probably better than you do. But you should definitely work together on the marketing efforts, because I think if you have a grasp on your socials and they have a grasp on their local stuff, then the two combined will yield the best outcome. I don't know where Seth Herman is. He's somewhere, but he's pretty cool. Where was your first concert? Okay, my first concert, I think, was James Taylor at Fiddler's Green, which is a amphitheater just outside of Denver in the burbs. However, my first concert that I ever went to by myself was the tour with Blink-182 and Green Day in Jimmy World. I think I was in like 6th grade, 7th grade. It was a really good tour. Siobhan, I've never played Floyd Fest. I don't think I can make a return. Sorry. What's something you wish you knew when you first started? As an agent, let's see. I think there's some interesting things. I've learned a lot in the last 10 and a half years. A lot about business and a lot about people. And I think maybe there's 2 things that I wish I knew. It's a slow burn. And then when it's on, which is awesome and makes it so much fun. And then also, I think something that they don't teach, I don't know, that they didn't teach me in college, I guess, is just that not everyone's your friend, and proving yourself, and that just because other people handle themselves in certain ways doesn't mean you need to, even if they are successful. I think you can find your own successes in being who you want to be and how you want to personally handle your own business. And I think that goes further. I think that's hugely important. And it's sort of like your own brand is just how you handle yourself. James Taylor. Disciples TV. I did see your question about stick figure. And I think that stick figure is amazing. I have had bands tour with stick figure. I love Stick Figure's management company. I think they're incredible. I have a great relationship with them. And I think that what he's done is major. So obviously it's a great model. I think the best part about that model is that, they came up with what they wanted to do, and then it was creative and it spoke to the demographic that they wanted to speak to, and then they saw real results from that. But I think the thing is that it was unique. So I think sometimes if you were to be like, I'm going to do that model, you just have to be careful, because it was Stick Figure's model and it's what worked for Stick Figure. And maybe you can use that as a guideline, but then make it your own, because there really isn't a formula here. And if there was a formula, there would be a lot of like shitty music out there, I think. I don't know. Maybe there'd also be really great music. I mean, I work with a lot of bands who deserve to be in front of thousands of people every night. And if there was a formula, I would put them into that formula and make them freaking rock stars. But there's not. But I also think that's part of what we do. Like, you have to work for it. I mean, there's no formula for anything. I don't know if that answers your question. Sorry. Does the booking agent, from Derek Opperman, does the booking agent work directly with the tour manager as well as the manager? Yes. I work with a lot of my tour managers. In fact, you should have a relationship with your tour managers. especially if there are issues the night of the show or there's contracting questions, I'm usually the agent is the most direct answer. Otherwise, not that you should cut out the manager should always be there, but I first-handed confirmed the deal. So I think there's a benefit to having that connection. Ashley, what advice would you give women working in the industry? Keep your head up and stay strong, and don't let them bully you, and know that you're probably just doing the same thing that your male counterparts are doing, but sometimes it's harder for people to hear it from a woman. And you're a freaking badass, I think. I think sometimes it may feel like you're swimming in a sea of men in the industry, and in some cases there are, but if you really look around, there's some amazing women in the industry, like running the industry. And I think they're women to look up to also. And there are a lot of really supportive men in the industry who are freaking feminists. So also know that. Man. An hour and 20 minutes. You got 22 minutes. I didn't think I could go this long. I'm stoked on all the questions. It's kind of exciting. Let's see. What makes Rootfire unique? And who are your Rootfire counterparts? My Rootfire counterparts is Reed, Foster, the man, the myth, the legend. He and I have been working together for 5+ years and have worked on like a handful of bands together, and it's really fun. Let's see, what makes Rootfire unique? What I like about Rootfire is I think, there are a lot of people like agents and managers who are in the business of the artist. But again, like I said, it's a business, which makes it tricky. And I think I love to see people that are out there advocating for the artist, who are there for the artist. And I think Rootfire does that. I know they've done a great job. So let's see. Also, Rootfire has awarded all of us these cool music industry 101 videos during this time, which I think is super creative. Like there's all these streaming shows and artists and whatever, but what a cool way to be able to connect on a different level with other people in the industry. I think it's cool. Let's see. I think that's it. If there are any more questions, if anyone has a question, type it now or forever hold your peace. You can email me. I don't know if I'll read it. Maybe I will. I have a lot of time on my hands right now. No more? All right. I had a lot of fun doing this. It's like kind of weird talking to yourself. Guess there's a reason I didn't get into blogging and selfies and Instagram videos. Yeah, whatever. It's just because it's not my thing. And more power to the people who can. It's kind of awkward. Anyways, Theo says hi and bye. Thank you for this. We think you're all great. Thanks for the questions and the support.